know what though? It's funny because actually Sink the Pink was actually it's been part of my inspiration actually, because as a club night, what that is a community and a place where anything goes. And I've basically dressed for the disco as if I'm going to Sink the Pink.
Welcome to Pop Tarts, Sing the Pink's new series where we'll be interviewing your favourite pop stars each week, live on Instagram. Who remembers the iconic Spiller track Groove Jet, If This Ain't Love? She's also a successful model, actress, podcaster, and most recently gave us lots of life with her kitchen disco. It is, of course, Sophie Ellis-Bextor!
Hiya.
Oh, we're very excited. We love you, as you know. How's this week been? How are you generally? Are you well?
I'm really good, yeah. It's been a strange week, hasn't it? Because we're all kind of thinking back to a year ago. So we've got our kitchen disco's first birthday tomorrow. And that's quite strange to think back. I feel lucky that I've got lots of nice things to distract me, and I've been, keeping busy, as you say.
I can't believe it's been a year since you first did the kitchen disco. To me, that's insane how fast that time has gone. Like, when you first started, did you realize how big of an impact it was going to have?
No way. I thought people were going to make fun of me, to be honest with you, because, the news was so heavy and the world was so tilted, and I was wearing my sequin catsuit and trying to sing with not stand on my then crawling smallest. So I thought, I knew it was ridiculous and I wasn't sure how it would land. But I guess, you know what, we haven't had a lot of silliness and a lot of daftness in the last 12 months. It's all been quite intense. And if I've been able, and my family have been able to provide a bit of that, provide a bit of silliness, I'm all for it. That suited me down to the ground.
It was pure joy. I think that's the thing. It's like every Friday night, the fact that you've managed to create this club in your kitchen with like the youngest punters of all England, which I love. And I remember you did, I think you released a post like about 2 weeks ago where you showed the actual audio of like the room.
Yeah, shut up. There's lots of shouting, talking, fighting, requests for food. It's quite non-stop. But yeah, it's, you know what, it's been a nice distraction for our family. We've just quite enjoyed having that as a thing to do. And it turns out that choosing songs each week and picking the karaoke songs is like, I'm quite a simple soul, I think, and it's been enough to keep me out of trouble.
What's been your favorite song so far to do?
Oh, I get overexcited about most of them, to be honest. I mean, I think, the moment I realized, oh my word, I'm sing Julie Andrews, like that's like my happy place automatically. I love doing Prince, Get Off. I love doing Wuthering Heights for the Halloween one. I've sort of enjoyed them all. And when I did Holiday, the Dizzy Rascal track, it was actually really good for me because I was like, I want to learn this rap inside out. So every day, like when it was bath time, I'd be like, right, kids, get your passport, get your bikini, you need a holiday, come see me. So I was like, I don't want to be thrown. I don't want to get to do it live and like screw it up. And then Dizzy Rascal, like he posted afterwards and he just put legend. And I was like, yay! That's like, it's been worth it the whole year. All the discos, it's been worth it.
I love that. I love the fact that you can connect with so many people because it's because it's so frequent and like and to sing everyone's songs, it's amazing.
You know what though? It's funny because actually Sink the Pink was actually it's been part of my inspiration actually, because as a club night, what that is a community and a place where anything goes. And I've basically dressed for the disco as if I'm going to Sink the Pink.
It's funny you say that because we sometimes we're like, oh my god, Sophie's outfits are so glammed, like she more or less could be a drag queen.
I'm like, I hope they like appreciate the detail.
But you know, one of my favorite moments from meeting you was on the photo shoot that we did for the tour that we're doing, and you were pulling out all the clothes from your suitcase, and we were like, oh my god, what design is that? What design is that? And you were like, eBay.
What's funny is that I brought those things along for that shoot, and then there's all this stuff like that, like all these little outfits and weird leotards and ice skating costumes and stuff. And literally the only other place I've worn any of them is that Sink the Pink shoot and one time where I sang at Sink the Pink. So it's like it's all connected in my head to like I'm allowed to wear whatever I want right now, and all the makeup and putting the headdresses on and just taking it as like flamboyant and big and otherworldly. I want it to be a bit outside, you know, to sort of be caricature. I don't. It's not singing on stage what I'm doing here. It's way more absurd than that.
I mean, yeah, because you performed with Sing the Pink and Mighty Hooper quite a few times. Do you have like a key standout memory or story?
The first time I ever went to Sing the Pink was when it was still at the Bethnal Green Working Men's Club, and it was for Dan, who's the singer in The Feelings, birthday, and I'd never been before. And I think it's just that lovely feeling of going in somewhere and it really resonating with you about the importance of giving everybody there a place where they could go and just be themselves. Like, that's such an amazing, it's such a simple thing, but it's actually not something we spend much of our time doing. And I got up that night just sort of impromptu and sang Murder on the Dance Floor, and it was just really joyful. And I think every experience I've had with Sink the Pink has been that same element of joy, and that's why I'm always so impressed with Glenn, with the fact that it started so tiny, but no matter where Sink the Pink is and what scale it's on, the kernel of what's special about it is always really well preserved. You know, and every time I'm on stage at Sink the Pink, the crowds are like way more interesting, way better dressed. I love that. That's exactly what it should be.
Did you plan on releasing the greatest hits as like was it like something that you'd already planned out ahead of time anyway, or was it just something that naturally came from the kitchen disco?
Entirely about the kitchen disco. No, I mean, it's if any eagle-eyed people out there, basically the year before I released an orchestral record. And I spent a lot of those interviews promoting it, saying, oh, I didn't want to do a conventional greatest hits, which at the time was totally true. I loved doing this orchestral album. But then when we were doing the discos, I found myself singing songs that actually I didn't even use on the orchestra, like album tracks and singles from, you know, albums I hadn't sung for ages. And it was just like, there's something happening here that's been really, really lovely. And I put on there the covers like Julie Andrews and New Order and Pulp, and it's like I wanted it just to be something, a mark in for me that this had happened, because the significance of the kitchen discos, you know, I know for most people they might have watched like 5 minutes and I'm singing out of their phone while they're doing something else, but for us here it's had massive significance. And you know, I sort of realized halfway through last year, like I can't just go back to what I was doing before. I need to actually acknowledge it, and that's why I wanted to do the tour and the album. And yeah, it's become part of the story of what's gone on, really.
I think it's beautiful how that organically developed, and I've listened to quite a lot of your podcasts and everything, and the idea that you said that you felt like you were sharing something that was quite personal and intimate, but now with the world, because it was a time of coming together.
It sort of seems irrelevant, doesn't it? The way you feel you must present yourself. You know, we're all in the same boat, so all those boundaries and things that seemed important before, they're just not that important, are they?
If at the start as well of your career, right back at the start, was there like a conscious decision between like a private Sophie and then the performer Sophie?
I think there was a definite gap, but it wasn't a conscious one. I think it was more sort of self-preservation, really, because when I was first doing interviews, I was quite shocked to find that everything about me was being analysed, and I think it made me feel quite vulnerable. So to have a sort of slightly different on-stage persona meant that if people slipped me off, it was once removed. So it actually just made me feel a bit more protected, really. And I think it took me years to kind of narrow the gap. And it was all to do with my own confidence, to do with growing up, to do with not caring as much, but also giving myself somewhere to go. And I think, you know, a lot of the stuff that happened at the beginning was, some of it was quite harsh. You know, it wasn't all lovely stuff. Some of the interviews and the articles were quite nasty. And I think it just meant that I felt like, well, it's all right. They don't really know me, so I can take it. I think there's a reason why, like, the shows like, you know, Drag Race and all, it resonates so much with teenage girls, is because as a teenage girl, you often do feel you've got to find this sort of alternative version of yourself. And seeing people who talk about feeling vulnerable one minute and then completely untouchable the next, you're like, that's what I want. And I think actually probably quite a lot of people go on something like that, of, you know, you have to wait to meet in the middle of like, actually, no, I'm kind of quite good in my skin. So I don't think it's even just being a pop star. I suppose that makes it a bit more intense, but I think that happens to lots of people while they're growing up, that feeling of like needing to kind of toughen yourself a little bit to face people if you don't feel completely secure.
From your experience with the LGBTQ plus community and performing with everyone. Have you learned any like lessons from drag queens?
There's two things that sprung to mind there. One is a really significant performance I had at GAY. It was the first gig I did back after I'd had my first baby. So I was doing my third album. I'd been off, I hadn't done any gigs for about 2 or 3 years. So, you know, a long, long break. And there was always that atmosphere just before you go out on stage at GAY where you felt really nervous. And as soon as you walked out, there was just this amazing warmth that would radiate from the crowd. They're just willing you to just like be great tonight. And it just really, really touched me. And I found myself performing in a way I'd never performed before. And I thought, wow, I kind of just felt like I'd lost some inhibitions, and it was really significant. And afterwards, I remember being a bit like, oh, a bit pink-cheeked almost, like, whoa, I actually really just forgot myself a bit there. But I think that was the first sort of step on the road to just feeling a lot more comfortable and confident in myself. The other inspiration was watching Alisa Edwards perform. So I think she was in maybe season 4 or 5 of Drag Race in America. And I went to Australia to do a couple of gigs, and Alisa was on just before me. And I stood there at the start of the stage watching. And the absolute conviction with which she performed these two, I think it was only lip sync actually, lip sync these 2 songs. It was right to the ends of her fingers, you know, everything. It was so like, you are lucky to be watching me. I feel this. I'm giving you everything, but I've also got complete control. And I just thought, that's what I need. I need to harness some of that. Like, enough with the apologies, enough of the like, oh, you know, don't mind me, you know, just go out and be like, yes, I'm going to deliver to you and you can trust me. This is not awkward for me because I've got this. I'm performing for you and I understand my role in the equation, and I'm just going to give you my best. And I just thought that's exactly what I need. I need some of that when I perform. I remember thinking when I started, you know, if my career is going to be short-lived, then I can not give much of myself away, and then I'll know that I've kept some of myself back. And then I've still got things to reveal, because I thought if I give all of myself straight away and people say, actually, we don't want that, that's all of me. So it kind of meant I felt like I had a little bit of myself that was always for me. I think that's quite healthy.
When you first started, obviously, because there was a huge furore around the week of the Groove Jet release with the little charge battle with my alter ego Posh Spice, which I was torn. I'm the biggest Spice Girls fan, so I was like, I'm adamant I'm going to be buying Out of Your Mind. And then I was like listening to your song throughout the week, and I got to Saturday, and I was like, I really want to buy this song, but I don't think I can until Monday.
Don't worry about it.
It's so funny. Did that like set you up in a way that you felt was like a useful thing? How did you feel around that time? Do you remember all of it?
I think I found it just quite absurd, really. I mean, it was like before that I'd been in a band that had signed a record deal, and then we'd been dropped, and that was all by the time I was 20. So for me, what was happening with Groove Jet was just something where I felt like I needed just to take it all in and recognize that, firstly, things like that don't happen to every single that gets released. Secondly, it was all quite exciting. And thirdly, just I didn't really want whatever happened with the song or with me to be defined on whether or not I was number 1 or number 2. I met Victoria. We were both in the same TV program, and I made a point of like knocking on her door just to sort of say, look, I know that was all really silly. You know, it never really felt like a real thing. It was very much a press thing. But I think I just thought, just try and take it in, because it's quite dramatic. You know, it was on the 6 o'clock news and the front page papers, and you know, it was quite exciting.
Oh my god, talking of Posh Spice, because obviously my facts in my head, I know that like she again was kept off number 1 spot by Kylie's Can't Get You Out of My Head. Oh. Right, so my question is, because I've obviously read a rumour in The Guardian, so everything must be true, that song was also offered to you as well. Can you confirm or deny that fact for our Sync the Pink viewers?
Well, I'll tell you what, I'll tell you the truth, but it won't make any difference. But no, I wasn't. The first time I heard that song was when it was on the radio, but like literally no one cared. I was doing an interview probably about 4 years ago with a guy like, so tell us about that. And I was like, I wasn't offered the song. And he was like, we've put the record straight. And I was like, this is going to make no difference. Like, it's just although actually I say all that, I never heard the song before. I didn't know anything about it. But then years and years and years later, I worked with Kathy Dennis, who wrote that song. And I said, oh, I keep being asked if, you know, that was offered to me. And she went, well, actually, we did write it with you in mind. So I wonder if maybe they'd wanted it to be pitched to me. But my A&R man always told me he'd never heard it before. But maybe he was lying to me. But I know I know where I was when I first heard it, because it's a great song. But I also think it's Kylie's song. I think it's always meant to be her song. I don't think I would have done it as well.
One thing that strikes in my head as well is just how you've managed to maintain your schedule and all your stuff that you've been doing. Because I actually heard you talk about that fact on your Spinning Plates podcast. And I was like, oh my God. So she does kitchen disco, the podcast, like, and raises 5 children. Like, how is this possible?
I tell you what, everything it's always been fairly intense, but this last year has been like absurd. I think because I've had no differentiation between work and home, and I don't have anywhere at home that I work from. I normally go other places to work. So I did find, and it's weird timing with the podcast as well, because I started doing the podcast right at the beginning of lockdown, and then suddenly all my things about being a working parent and what I'm allowed to be selfish about and how I make time for it and how I make space for it, I've had to really think about it a lot. And I think in some ways it's been quite good for me, because I think I played down work a lot at home. I would always be quite dismissive about what I was up to and not really tell the kids what I was up to and not really stress the importance of it to me, because I didn't want them to feel like, oh, it wasn't their choice that I do what I do, and it's not their choice that I had, gave them 4 brothers sort of thing. So yeah, I think this year I've been a bit better at being like, actually what I do, I really care about it and I want to do it well, and it's important to have time and space. This would be a brilliant time for one of them to walk in. I'll tell you, the other thing I've been doing this last few months is writing a book, and then that's been really interesting. I've been writing my autobiography, and I've nearly finished the first draft, and that's been crazy, because I've been able to think back over all this stuff. It's been really fun.
From your songs that you sing on stage, do you have a most favorite one and a least favorite one?
Most favorite, actually I'm on quite good terms with all my songs. I mean, I love doing Heartbreak, I have to say, because especially with the last tour I did. So last tour I did, I had the band with me, but I also had a 20-piece orchestra. So when we did things like Heartbreak, it was like with harp and timpani and strings, and oh my God, I felt like a superhero with that song. It's so powerful. I also love doing Youngblood because it's very sort of heartfelt, and Murder and Groovejet are always a joy. I really have a bad one. The only one that I've got one song where if anyone requests it, I have to punish myself by speaking the lyrics of the second verse, because I wrote terrible lyrics. A song called Won't Change You. And I actually really like the chorus, but the second verse says I used to change my hair like I changed my mind. I tried to change a tire, but I'm not that way inclined. I used to change my diet, my figure too. I'll still change my underwear if that's okay with you.
I think it's now time for question. Oh, thank you, special hand. As the rule of 6 may still apply soon, who would your favorite 6 people be on a night out?
I thought you were going to say, who of your family would you leave out? Because we're obviously several. Shows you how my mind works. My favorite 6 people, it's a very unexciting answer, but it is the truth. I just can't wait to have some proper time with my family. My mum lives 10 minutes away, and my brother, my sister, they're also in London, and I just want to have them around for supper, or go, have them over for Sunday lunch, just something casual.
Would you like to be a guest on RuPaul's Drag Race?
Definitely, yeah. I think it'd be amazing. I love watching all the looks come together, and yeah, hell yeah. Does anyone say no to that? Everybody wants.
What is your ultimate favorite disco track?
Oh, actually, I know the answer to this. It's the Thelma Houston "Don't Leave Me This Way." I just think it's the perfect disco song, because it starts slow and seductive, and by the end, your heart is like entirely tempo. A good song when it has the same effect on you every single time you hear it, and that definitely.
The thing or person that got you into music?
I think it was probably just something I was always obsessed with as I was growing up. I sort of thought everybody was like that, but then I realized as the older I got that no, not everybody gets that excited about pop music and dance music and disco and everything. But yeah, when 2016 because I met someone when I was out in a club, and he said, oh, I've got a friend looking for a singer in a band, and I it's going to be something I would tell my kids I did once. I sort of did it because I thought it was like a rite of passage, really.
Any tips for the viewers at home to create their own kitchen disco?
Oh, you don't need my tips. Put the music on you love. Do you know what I think? I think that at the moment, because we've had to wear masks and gel our hands, very aware of all the restrictions and how close we are with other people, I think it does the same thing for emotions. So for me, the music is all about catharsis. So just put on your, all-time favorite songs and just go for it. It lets all that emotion, all that tension out. So you don't need my tips. You just need your playlist. Go for it.
Well, Orlando, thank you so much for joining us. I've loved our chat.
Same here. I could talk to you all. Very nice. Thank you.
Love you so much. Have a lovely evening and say hi to your fam and everything. Big kisses. And happy birthday, Kitchen Disco.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. See you tomorrow night.
Bye.
Yes, bye.